Good evening, and welcome back to the Placid Plastic Podcast. I'm here with my co-host David,
Good evening, everyone.
and it's been a while, but we've got we've got another episode for you.
It's been quite a while, everyone, but we're back and we're ready to start again. As you can see, there are a multitude of ducks in this pond since we last played. Unfortunately, we missed a Halloween event, but that's okay. I'm sure there'll be more events to come. But Lucas, you wanted to talk about cars, so take it away.
I just kind of wanted to have a general conversation because I feel like it's a big thing for a lot of people. Not so much myself or probably you, but people love their cars. And I was thinking, like, what kind of things, what kind of expenses? No, sorry. Let me dial it back. What's your ideal car? Just the model first.
Well, I've always been down with Hondas. Hondas, in my opinion, are the most reliable type of car you could get. I've always driven Hondas my entire life. I've gone through three different Hondas. I had one when I was 16, and then when I was 18, and then I got one about a little over 2 years ago when a 16-year-old hit me at a stoplight. So I swapped cars, but I've been driving Hondas since I started driving. So that's my ideal
No,
uh, car.
so if like money wasn't an object, what kind of car? Like specific car, not just the wait is make is the Honda,
It
right?
goes, yeah, it goes year, make, and model. So
Okay,
make would be
so
Honda,
yeah,
and then
what's your
model would be what
model?
type. Well, I like the CRVs. I like the four doors. So right now I have a Civic, and Civics are okay, but they're a little bit too low on the ground for my liking. So I tend to scrape over like bumpers and curbs and whatnot. So I would like something a little bit higher off the ground, like a CRV. That's my ideal make and model.
Okay. What kind of I know this seems more like an obvious kind of thing, but what would the aftermarket changes would you do?
Um,
And
I
it
guess it
could be
just
it's
depends.
not just like body work, but interior stuff too.
Yeah, so for reference for people watching, I used to work in insurance and I used to work not only in auto claims, but I actually worked in a body shop writing accident claims. So I have several years of experience with cars and the repair process and aftermarket stuff and all that. And we'll get into kind of my experience in that field of work later because there's a mountain of stories I have. But when it comes to what I would add, I think if we just really, when it comes to exterior, the only thing I would change is like what type of tires are on the car. I typically like to, whenever I get a new car, if they haven't already changed the tires, I'll change the tires so it's brand new. In terms of interior, whatever the type, I prefer cloth over leather seating. My dad had a Volvo when I was growing up, and he had these leather seats that they were like fake leather, and they were just crappy material, just like disgusting and severely damaged over time. And I whether it's fake or real leather, I really hate that material in cars. One thing is if it gets hot in a car and you have leather in the car, you're going to be baking the minute you sit down. It is going to suck sitting down on hot leather. But with cloth, um, it's not as bad when it's super hot. Um, the only downside with cloth is if you stain it, it's harder to get out as opposed to leather. But if there's material nowadays that help you get rid of stains off of cloth material. Other things I would do is just kind of see if I can replace any aspects of the radio or the music player, or how many USBs are available in the car. Where's the USB so I can plug it in for like a charger? Should I add like a mini charger to the thing? Um, and that's really it in terms of aftermarket. With me, when it comes to cars, is I'm more focused on the maintenance and the upkeep. I know a lot of people tend to kind of put off taking care of their car. Whether it's I don't have the money for it or the time. I can't take it to a shop right now and have them repair it because I'd be without a car for a while. But I tend to really be on the up and up when it comes to that. Okay, when was the last time I changed out my oil? When was the last time I changed out my brake pads and my brake fluid? What about the cabin and the cabin air filter? When was the last time I've done that? So I tend to be really good with that kind of stuff, just because I think over time, if you don't really pay attention to that stuff, it leads to your car breaking down and your car not lasting as long as you wanted to. And with nowadays, with how expensive cars are, I mean, man, you don't want to be in an accident or be in a situation where you have to get a new car because it's just so ridiculously expensive now to get a car, even one that's been well used. Like I've seen cars lately with over 100,000 miles, and they go for like $7,000-8,000, just because the car market's so whack right now. I don't know if that's kind of what you were looking for, but that's really what I do with my car as a whole, just kind of staying up to date with the maintenance and the upkeep of it. And not only that, but just like I like to whoever had my car before me, I don't think really took a good job of taking care of it. Number one, I'm pretty sure there was an accident that was never reported, because when I got the car, it came with an aftermarket right fender that was very obviously a different material than the rest of the car. The back tail light didn't work. The wiring for the back right tail light was damaged. There was like some other weird aftermarket stuff on the right side of the car that I was like, this person must have gotten in an accident and never reported it and just decided to take care of it. Because if you report an accident, it has to go on the car's record so that if you sell it, the buyer knows what's happened to it, and whoever ends up buying the car after it's brought to the dealer, they know the history of the car. But there must have been some major accident on this car that was never reported. Another weird thing was all the rotors and brake pads were extremely like rusted or worn. And this is a 2018 car, and I bought it in 2021, so only had 3 years of use on it. But the rotors were just completely shot and rusted, and the pads were really worn, and it's just very weird circumstance. Now, over the last couple of years I've had the car, I've done all sorts of work to bring it back to really great condition. I still have some things I need to do to it that I'll do when the new year hits. But yeah, car maintenance is tough. And if you don't keep up to date with the really important stuff, it could come back to bite you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know all about that.
Yes, you've just recently gone through your own type of maintenance issues lately.
Yeah, so my car is a 2007 right now, Eclipse, and so it's older as far as car standards go, and in California, as far as smog requirements go, it needs a smog more often than a newer car would. And so I couldn't smog. My engine light was on for a long time, but everything was running fine, so I wasn't worried about it. And it had been on as long as I had the car, so I thought it was it wasn't a real issue. Because anytime I took it anywhere else, like I passed smog before, with somehow finessing the light being off, but the light turned on shortly after, so it was, don't tell anyone. Yeah, apparently my catalytic converter was gunked up and needed a full replacement. And of course that's expensive. The converter itself is like $800, and apparently the labor to replace it is the other $1,200. And I feel like,
God.
yeah, and that's normal. That's a common thing. When you need to replace your catalytic converter, you can expect it to cost about $2,000, I feel like. So yeah, that put me down $2K. That was cool. And apparently, more recently, that was a few months ago. More recently, yeah, I knew I was kind of running behind on my oil change, and you do not want to run behind on your oil change because that's the engine. The engine needs the oil. Apparently, my oil was getting low. I didn't realize this. What was I doing? I was driving somewhere, and I think I had to make a really quick stop because of a light change or something. And I was going, faster than the speed limit probably wants me to go. So that, I braked really hard, and then my oil light came on. And I was like, the hell? Like, I'm only like 200 miles off of my return to get my oil done date. I don't have an exact number because I did the oil change myself at the last thing, and I just kind of mathed it. I was like, all right, I need another 6,000 miles? Is that it? I think it was
Yes.
like 6K, and I was like, all right, I'm around that. I should do it again. and my car had been making these old car sounds, like the kind of sound.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, I guess I didn't really notice that it made that sound before. But I was walking home from my car after a day at work, and this guy on the third floor on his balcony, it's just like, hey man, none of my business, but your car's making a weird sound. When's the last time you did your oil change? I was like, oh snap, it's about the time I do another oil change. And I was wondering if that actually was a problem or not. So I did that. Car feels so much better. It sounds so much better. But oh my god, oil stop, and those bastards. You go there. They're like, okay, we're gonna do an oil change for you. They're like, great. And then they're gonna check every possible thing that they can change and make you feel like your car's gonna explode if you don't do it. So they're like, okay, you also need a transmission fluid change because yours is black and it's supposed to be pink. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I passed up on that last time, and that's supposed to be relatively frequent too. And I haven't been driving enough to really need as much, what do you call it? Maintenance, because I live so close to work, and I haven't been driving out as much as I was before the COVID lockdowns, and so I had to get the transmission fluid replaced. I had to get the oil changed. I had to get my cabin filter replaced. Was it my cabin filter? I think so.
You have an engine. You have an engine and a cabin filter.
I think it was the engine filter actually. Yeah, because it was on the other side. My cabin filter's on the right.
It would be the engine filter.
Yeah, and it looked pretty dusty, so I got that replaced. I added some engine cleaning stuff because it had been a while since I gotten the oil replaced, so I figured it actually mattered that it cleaned out. I skipped on only one thing, and it was the fuel cleaner, which I probably could have done because I was dangerously low on gas. And you know what? It cost me, I think, another $400 to get all this stuff done. And I mean, I have a full synthetic oil, so that cost me $120 right there. That's
the other thing too.
Such a pain.
The other thing too is with these shops, so they bank on, having worked on a body shop myself, they bank on people not knowing any better about their cars. Oh, something's wrong with my car. Well, I'll just take it to the shop and they'll tell me what's wrong, right? But sometimes, well, not sometimes, really almost all the times, they'll rip you off because I mean, the average Joe does not know much about cars. So if I come up to you and I'm like, well, okay, so we got to replace the oil, we got to replace your transmission, we got to replace your two filters, we got to do this, this, and this. And if we don't do this, you're going to have serious problems. So that all comes out to $2,000 when in actuality, if you know what's going on, it should only really cost half, if not a third of that. I see that all the time especially when I worked in claims on the insurance side, the amount of stuff that shops try to get away with, especially it's not necessarily the stuff, it's the labor they get you on.
It's the labor, yeah. Because they'll show you the breakdown, and they'll be like, yeah, these cost like $15. And then they'll show you the labor, and it's like, oh yeah, this is $218 per wheel.
And I would do, the thing with me, when I was an adjuster, is I'd come up and I'd be like, let's say, for example, you get rear-ended. Okay, so your rear bumper needs to be replaced. You need to do work on the trunk, and the two panels that the bumper attaches to on both sides are called the quarter panels. So they're like, okay, well, we need 8 hours on the left and we need 12 hours on the right. And I'm like, dude, there's like not that much damage on the right. What do you mean 12? And he's like, well, we got to get behind it and we got to weld it and we got to do this. And it's like, no, that's 4 hours. And they know it's 4 hours, but they want to get that money because that's how they get their money, is through labor.
Yeah.
And so the worst part of the job was negotiating labor rates with workers, because they would be very, very stubborn about what they thought was the right amount of time, or what they were trying to rip you off with. And yeah, I would often have these arguments with them, because the problem is, if you, like, let's say theoretically I just agree automatically with them, and I'm like, okay, you're right, that is 12 hours and that's 8 hours. So I write the estimate, and then I process it, and then Geico, for example, which is the company I worked for at the time, would reach out to me and be like, why did you approve 30 hours of repair time? The photos look like it's only 10 hours, then I get in trouble. And then I end up losing my job because I keep allowing excessive amounts of repair time. But so that's where they get you as an average customer. Is okay. Well, the part's $100, but the labor is $1,000, and it's like, well, if I dispute them, I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, and I won't get the work done. So that's how they get you, is through that labor time.
Yeah, and we know someone who just got her brakes replaced, and that cost way too much. And like I said they did $218 per wheel for brakes and rotors. And
Jeez.
yeah, it was unbelievable. It cost, I think, twice as much as my brakes cost. And we have similar models of car as far as the engine components and the wheels and stuff. Like the actual cabin itself, hers is bigger than mine. It's more like a tall SUV, or sorry, a tall sedan that's pretending to be an SUV. And it's an Eclipse Cross. I drive just an Eclipse. And hers is also newer, so it's the parts are more available for newer cars, and it's not that new. I think it's also a 2018, so I don't think it should have, like, the parts themselves were cheap. It's not like it's a hard car to deal with, so it's all very straightforward. Yeah, charged out the ass for that. It's such garbage. But you know what I would do to improve my car? Because I completely forgot to answer that question.
Yeah, what would you do?
So I already have an aftermarket radio, but I would upgrade it for sure. I think I like my Eclipse. I think it's a nice car. It runs nice. It's a bit small, but I don't know. It feels nice to have a sporty car like that. I would prefer white wall tires with wider rims, but that also kind of removes the white wall. So it's a give and take. I don't know which one I'd like better. I would also fix the paint. I think I'd keep the same color. It's like this shiny orange kind of metallic-y look. It's really nice, actually. And I need to get it redone, but that costs another $2,000. I also need my fucking roof, man. The headliner is falling down, so I need to go buy some, like, spray and put that back up. But and I have leather seats, and like you said, they're not the best. Like, they're comfortable, but when it's hot, they're the most uncomfortable. And they fall apart, I feel like, so much easier than fabric does, which is weird.
Yeah.
It seems backwards.
You think it'd be the other way around, but leather, like I said earlier, leather's not that good, and it's very easy for it to break down and crack all over the place and just look really unpleasant. It just doesn't feel good to sit in.
Yeah, especially in Southern California, with the way the sun hits, it's not a great thing to have.
Yeah, I agree. You should tell the people that you used to. So Lucas used to have this glorious van before the Eclipse. And the van was perfect because if all of our friends were hanging out, we could all hop into the van and go wherever we want as like a singular unit. So there'd be no issues with, like, okay, where do we meet? Give me the instructions. What's the address? We're all in one single car. But unfortunately, you went from this massive van to this very small Eclipse. So it's fun. It's funny to see the difference between the two. Like, you went from big to very, very small.
Yeah, I say it was an equal exchange for different reasons. Oh, we got all the ducks.
Did it give you I didn't get any pop-up for that.
Oh, I just got it.
What am I missing?
I don't know.
The meter's not filling up anymore. Maybe, let me see.
Huh. I thought I got the DLC out. I don't know why that's not in here. Yeah, so I had this van, right? It was a minivan. It was, honestly, I loved it. It was great. It was comfortable. It was big. It would hold everybody. And my ideal car would be something like a minivan, just not the way people build minivans. Like, I don't want a regular van. They're too big. I don't want an SUV. They're not nearly as useful. I want a minivan. And this one, had space. The best thing about a minivan is you can take out the front row of the back seat and have just so much more space. Slap a cooler in there, drive to the beach. I don't even like the beach that much, but it was just something you could do, and it had so much. You'd still have plenty of seating space because you have 3 rows of seats. You take the front row out, so you now have 2 rows of seats, and now you've got all that space to just kind of chill and put stuff. And then we took trips all over the place. It was great. And then some jackass without insurance, barely spoke English, fucking ran into me while I was taking a protected left turn, less than 1,000 feet away from my apartment. That son of a bitch was speeding down this hill and just T-boned me. I was lucky I didn't get injured at all because he hit me right in the driver's side door and the wheel well on the front left. I completely destroyed the axle, so it was an instant scrap. And
That sucks.
because he didn't have insurance, and because he said he had insurance, I was fighting with my insurance and his insurance, trying to figure out what I'm going to do because my apartment complex does not let you have out of order vehicles in the parking spots. If you have an out of order vehicle, you have to put it in your garage. The garage spot was reserved for people who actually could use their cars and didn't want to walk in the middle of the night because they get off work late from the 1,000 feet away parking area to the actual apartment. Or I guess it was a townhome. Yeah, so that was annoying. And I kept calling every maybe third or fourth day, something like that, and trying to figure out, hey, I need something. Like I've got no vehicle. My car is destroyed. I need someone to take care of it, or I need to know what I'm doing with it, right? Because if they're going to destroy the vehicle and they're going to say, okay, we're going to give you the money, they need to take my vehicle and then give me my money.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't have a vehicle, it's not going to work. So I can't just get rid of it. I ended up just scrapping it after a while. And then they finally tell me, oh yeah, so at the time of the accident, there was no insurance. And I'm like, bro, you've got to be kidding me. I'm out of car. And I've been hitching rides with my friends. We all worked at the same place, so it was easy. But it was just really annoying. I lost my freedom. I had to Uber around, pay for tow trucks. I was spending so much money moving this stupid car around. I finally got it put in a shop that handles things with insurance. And then they were like, hey, we're not getting anywhere. Can you take your car? I'm like, okay. So I go in there, I talk to them for a bit. I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm going to scrap it. Is it cool if I just have them pick it up from here? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And so I call a company. They show up. The dude's like, hey, I'll give you $100 right now if you just let me take it. And I'm like, sure, dude. Like the stereo inside that was probably worth more, but I don't care. I'm sick of this. Take the car and fuck off. And so I Uber back home, and I get another call from this auto shop, and they're like, "Hey, your car is still here." I think I was doing something, so I didn't even receive the call, right? And then I took the message, and it was like, "Yeah, it's still here. I don't know what's going on. Please can you take it away?" And I ignored it. I was like, it's not even mine anymore. I gave the money. I got the money. I gave the car. It's gone. It's out of my hands. I'm not touching it. Forget about it. I never heard it back from it, so I'm sure it was solved. Otherwise, some dude just lost $100, and I guess I'm fine with that. I don't care. And the same friend who sold me that car sold me his Eclipse. And so I picked up the Eclipse, and all I had to do was inherit the car payments they were already paying for. And it was great. And this car is great. And I just need to do more work on it. It is loud, though. That's probably my biggest gripe with it, is that it is so loud inside that car.
Yeah.
I bought this stuff that you're supposed to put inside, in between, like the interior and the exterior. It goes somewhere on the frame of the vehicle. That's like this dense foil liner that's supposed to minimize or lower the sound you get from the road. It doesn't make it super quiet, but it does a little bit, and I need something. And I've just had it sitting around because I can't just take it to a shop and say, hey, can you do this? Because it's supposed to be like an 8-hour job for someone who's probably doing it for the first time. They could
Hmm.
probably do it in 4 to 6, probably 2 if they had multiple people. So I'm going to take it to a place as soon as I have the money to do it. Oh, and I need to retint my windows because whatever jackass had the car before my friend had the car, they tinted the back windows and it's got a bunch of bubbles in it. They tinted the side windows and it's got a bunch of bubbles in it. I can't actually see outside my rear view window because it's blurry and bubbly.
It's very
So
dangerous.
it's very dangerous. Luckily, I have a brain, so I can tell when there's things behind me um, when I'm backing out of places. I've also got a camera installed, so if I really feel like I don't know what I'm doing, I can use that. But man, it was such a frustrating experience, and that shit pissed me off. I would love to have another minivan. Bottom line.
Do you
uh,
think maybe in the future you'll get another one, or are you just hanging with the Eclipse for
it,
10, 20 years?
if I become successful, then I think I would just have another car. I think I'd buy a really good minivan. I'd want one with like at least a V6 engine because doing a 4-cylinder on a minivan is ridiculous. They do not handle very well, and that's what
Yeah.
I had. If I had a 6 or a V8, then I'd be very comfortable. And I know
Do
that
you
just
remember?
pretty much turns it into an SUV, but I don't want it to be an SUV.
Yeah, you kind of stuck with that, having to figure out how to handle that part. Do you remember when your girlfriend had that really crappy Isuzu?
Yeah. No, wait,
His girl,
the rodeo.
yeah, the really old, like dark gray one that had
Yeah,
just everything wrong with it. So his girlfriend got the. Was that her first car ever, if I'm not mistaken?
I think it was. Yeah.
She got this Isuzu that had every single problem wrong with it. It had cracked windshield, it had bad brakes, it had the transmission belt was screwy, it just had every issue under the book. But the thing was, she didn't have when she got the car, she didn't have to drive that far to work, so it was really good for short drives. If you had to take it on anything longer than like a 10-20 minute drive, it would really struggle. I don't know if you remember, it actually got to the point where I don't even think she could take it on the freeways because it just had trouble like just driving fast.
No, yeah,
And
it had trouble shifting up. It also had coolant issues.
oh yeah, that's right. And it's like every week something new would pop up, and it got to the point where it's like, yeah, you can't even like drive it down the road. It's busted. And I just remember that car, man. It was just such a hunk of junk, but it worked for a while. And that's the funny thing with cars is some, especially older cars, like in the early 2000s, you could just have so many things wrong, and it would still do the basic things. Like, okay, I could drive, I can brake, I can turn. But the newer cars get, the more small problems can quickly escalate to big problems. Um, and when I used to work my claims job, those 20 something about the year 2020 cars, like 2020 and above, 2021 and 22 cars as well, have a myriad of electrical systems now, auto locks, sensors everywhere, all over the car. And if you get hit anywhere, a huge part of the labor is replacing these sensors and replacing this electrical equipment. It's not just a bumper or a fender or the absorbent bar or anything like that. Now it's like, okay, we got to make sure the batteries are replaced and the electrical component and the sensors and the modules, and it's just like, when I near the tail end of my insurance job, I would just get so confused writing these claims because we're accounting for this electrical equipment that's not really that like widespread yet. So the claims process is still kind of like, yeah, if you get like this, just it got to the point where they're like, whatever the technician says, just do it because we can't argue stuff that we don't really know what to do with yet. And it's just the newer these cars get, the harder it is to repair them. I mean, for example, Teslas, you actually have to be Tesla certified to work on cars. So you can't take, if you have a Tesla and it gets damaged, you can't take it to an average body shop. You have to take it somewhere that actually has the legitimate certification to handle it. It's very weird. Or just take it to an actual Tesla brand, like the Tesla
Dealership.
repair, Tesla dealership. Which, in my opinion, I hate Teslas. I would never get a Tesla. They look cool. I've been a passenger in a Tesla, but I would never buy or drive a Tesla. But it's just interesting that those particular cars, you have to be certified to handle it. You can't just take it to Joe Schmo's auto repair.
There is that in newer cars, they have a lot of driving assist and stuff like that. I wish I could just add that to my car because doing long drives, it's very nice. I drove to northern Nevada once with my family. We rented a car because my parents' car was garbage. And it wasn't like a Tesla, but it was newer, and it had all the driving assist. It didn't have just full-on drive for you or anything like that, but if you just had your hands on the wheel, it would essentially keep itself in the lines. And when you first try to drive a car that does that, it is so frustrating and it's very, very scary because you feel like the car is trying to crash and you're trying to keep it steady, but we're just not as good at keeping things straight as we think we are. So after the first 2 hours of driving, I finally relaxed a little bit and let the car pretty much do it all. Because this is mostly straight roads, right? There's nothing else to do. I'm just holding the gas, and I'm not even doing that because it's got cruise control. So I'm just sitting there and holding this wheel while trying to keep myself comfortable. And it was such a nice thing to have, and it also had the cruise control was also sensor, right? And if there was a car in front of you, it would slow down and keep a certain distance and maintain its cruise control behind this car. Now, a lot of people don't realize how to use cruise control because I feel like every single person I've ever driven behind on the road just has the most variable speeds. Always. They'll speed up, they'll slow down, they'll speed up, they'll slow down because you just keep your foot on the pedal and you think you're going the same speed, but it's just not enough, so you push a little bit more and now you're going too fast. And I always use my cruise control on the Eclipse. It's amazing. The cruise control I don't think worked on my minivan, but it was supposed to, and it's just nice to have. It makes such a big difference on being comfortable while you're driving without having to constantly tap, release, tap, release, slightly hold on. Because if I'm holding on, the only time I'm doing a perfect balance is when I'm hitting 80. And the freeways around here don't always sit at 80. They're usually closer to 65 because some dipshit doesn't know how to drive. That's so annoying.
Yeah, the other thing too with driving, and my dad taught me this early on when I first started getting behind the wheel, is you have to drive like everyone around you is crazy. And that's so true. So I'm in the South, I'm in Texas, and the amount of just pure insanity, just nonsensical insanity I've seen on the road while I'm driving is absurd. I've seen it all. I've seen people miss their exits. This is the most dangerous one that I see all the time. People miss their exits on the freeway, and instead of just taking the next exit and an extra 5 minutes of making a couple turns, they're like, oh, I could still make it, and they swerve into the exit lane well past when it's available for exit. And I've seen that you could kill someone doing that. I've seen people just merge into lanes and almost hit other cars just because they need to merge. They're not going to signal. I'm not going to wait for an opening. They just start merging, especially in trucks. Dude, audience, if you drive a truck, that's whatever. But majority of truck drivers out here suck, and I hate them.
I think that's just a fact of truck drivers. Most of them
hate it.
No, I hesitate to say most of them, but enough of them to be a common theme, like BMW drivers not using their blinkers, right? Truck drivers, they do the same shit. They're the most aggressive and the most annoying sons of bitches. They'll just hog the road and they'll try to run you off. They're just the worst. I don't drive aggressively. I don't swerve in and out of people. But these guys will just ride up on your ass in this big line of slow cars. I'm the problem. Bro, calm down. Get off my ass. Switch lanes. If you want to weave around like you've been doing, because I can see you in my rear view mirror, and my side mirrors, because it's really not that great through the actual window, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, God, they're so annoying. So annoying. Stop. If you have a car, if you have a 350, a 250, you better use that shit for work. If you don't, if you just have that for fun, drive off a cliff. I hate you. You're annoying. Your lights are too damn bright. Your car takes up the worst parking spots and never fits inside of a single one. Just stop using that car. You don't need it. Get a minivan. They fit better. Get an SUV. People respect those. Get literally any other car. You're spending so much money on a car that doesn't do anything for you. Unless you're doing construction work or landscaping or something where you're hauling shit. I can appreciate that. I can respect that. But that's not what I see. You see shiny cars with clean wheels, clean sides, and nothing in the bed, and they're just the worst. And they're everywhere.
I think the only reason, and this is partially motivated by my hatred for people that drive trucks, I think if you have a truck and you're not using it for like heavy duty lifting or your job or any sort of farm work, and you just have it just to have it, and you barely use the truck bed, you should jump off a bridge. I hate you.
Yeah, no. And I think we're not the only ones who share this idea. Anyone who doesn't drive a truck like that probably feels this way about those trucks. Like BMW drivers, they can be annoying, right? Mercedes drivers, they can be annoying. I've never actually met an annoying Tesla driver because I don't meet these people. I have seen a couple of annoying Tesla cars, but they're really not nearly as common. They're just about as common as any other generic vehicle. But specifically like BMWs, Ford trucks, it's always Fords, and Subaru drivers. It's those what, I don't know, a WRX. That's probably
you talking about
right.
different talking about different trucks.
Different drivers that I hate.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's Subaru
so
WRX. They're like these hatchback sedans
yes,
that are
yes.
always modded for like car people, but it's like the cheapest one to do. I think. I can only imagine that's the reason why there's so many people who use them.
Well, I'll tell you a funny.
Get a muffler.
You mentioned.
Sorry.
I agree. I 100% agree with that, by the way. But you mentioned Tesla drivers, so I'll tell you one funny story. My very, very first car I ever worked on when I started insurance was a Tesla. Like right off the gate, like I got off training, and the very first day was you're working on this Tesla.
That sucks.
And this was a weird one because this guy, he's there, and he got hit on the front end of the car and had some suspension damage. Which, by the way, as Lucas told you with his van, if you get into an accident and you get suspension damage, man, is it difficult to repair at that point. But so he gets hit, and we have the car boosted. I'm looking under it, and he's just like, yeah, I need this car fixed because I live in this car. And I'm like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, I don't have an apartment or anything. Like, I just live out of this car. And I look at him, and I'm kind of like, I'm taking notice that he does not particularly look like well dressed, or he looks like he hasn't taken a shower in a few days. And I look, and like I need to take down some interior info, like the VIN number and the mileage. And I open the car doors, and I'm looking around. I'm like, this interior is disgusting. There's like trash everywhere, and it obviously looks like he just sleeps in the Tesla. And I'm just keeping them in the back of my mind. And I finish up, and I give him the estimate at the end of it all. And I'm taking down his contact info. And I remember just like, so you really live with you really sleep with this Tesla? He's like, oh yeah, like I just, it's basically my house. And I'm just thinking to myself, how did you get into a situation where you live out of a Tesla? Like, how do you get to that point?
Yeah, specifically a Tesla. Yeah, like you see it on like old ass cars, maybe medium cars as far as age goes. But something as new as a Tesla, that's surprising. That's unexpected. What is?
Yeah, you think
this glowing duck?
You where?
Bottom pool.
Oh, Lucas has all the ducks, but I bought some of the DLC, so I'm still waiting on a few more to drop.
Oh, I do need. Oh, that's probably where these are coming from then.
Yeah, my DLC, I think at this point.
I
Man,
thought I
there are
got the
so
newest
many,
one, but I guess I didn't.
there's so many ducks. There's like at the bottom of the pool. There's just like this log jam. It's so funny.
Yeah, we're at 96 now.
Where do you see the percentage?
If you just look up at the hover over the duck bar.
Yeah, I'm at 96 as well. So I think we have a few more. But yeah, man, cars. See, it's funny too because before I started my this insurance job years ago, is I didn't know anything about cars at the time. Like I knew, how to replace a battery, small stuff, how to change a tire, stuff like that. And then when I got this job, it was just this 7 weeks of crash course material of like, here's all these different parts of cars, and here's how it works, and here's how you repair it, and here's how technicians repair it. And those 7 weeks were just like information overload. And then as I spent the years doing that job, just learning more and more about cars, as the job went on, it ended up being pretty useful down the line with certain things. Like I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, but I got into an accident 2 years ago. I actually had a friend visiting me in Houston. We were at a stoplight, and all we had to do was turn left, and we were going to be in the parking lot. Some 16-year-old was looking at her phone and just slammed into the back of my car. Pretty hard, too. I mean, the car was totaled, and my friend, was a little sore. He wasn't seriously hurt, but he's, obviously had some pain and whatnot after the fact. And my left leg got pretty banged up from it, but both of us were relatively fine. And I just remember like we got to the parking lot, and I remember getting out of my car, and I looked at her, and I'm like, I just shrugged and was like, what happened? She's like, oh, well, this car changed lanes in front of you and I didn't have enough time to react. And I'm like, no, we're at a stoplight. You weren't paying attention and hit my car. So, but I just remember my experience in doing this kind of work made the whole process go by really quickly because I knew exactly what to expect. I knew the conversations I was going to have with the body shop. They told me my car was going to be totaled, and I already had a plan of like, hey, here's what I wanted to do. I'll contact my agent. So the whole process went by relatively painless. The only annoying thing was we found out that 16-year-old was not supposed to be driving the car. She was an excluded driver on her parents' insurance.
Excluded? Damn.
Excluded. And then when we tried to get our deductible back, they ghosted us. So I was out of pocket for $500. That was my deductible at the time. And they're like, well, I mean, we could try to get the money, but if they don't respond, you're kind of screwed. And I'm like, and they had nationwide insurance, which, by the way, don't ever get nationwide insurance. Garbage. But I was just so angry. Like, yeah, we can't get in touch with them, so we can't give you your 500. Sorry. And I'm like, F you then. But
I was like, what? Then take it out of your pocket. They're paying you.
That's what I was thinking.
That's the whole point of you. That's your job.
Well, again, that's what I told them. I was like, well, why don't you just give me the 500 and then you increase their premiums? Well, we can't do that. I'm like, oh, no wonder nobody likes Nationwide. You suck.
My God, that's.
But yeah, that was pretty terrible.
Fucking pointless. Oh, that's annoying. That makes me angry. It all makes me angry.
Just people just suck, dude. I mean, they're just terrible. I've had all sorts of different conversations with when I doing this claims job of customers getting screwed by other customers, and I'm like, hey man, like that's just the way it is. Like I'll help you as best I can, but if the other party's not going to play they got to take them to court, put the grease on their company, or just take the L, unfortunately. And they're that's just the nature of it. And I'll tell you one really interesting, fascinating story that really stuck with me to this day. So part of my job back then was I used to do total losses. So, that's when your car is so badly damaged that it costs more to repair it than its own value. So if you have a car that's $10,000 in value and you get into an accident and it costs $12,000 to repair it, at that point it is a total loss. So I would go to these tow yards and I'd write these total loss estimates, which were a big pain in the ass because you have to write comprehensive line, like 500 line estimates in the blazing heat, because this was, I was in Houston. Houston weather is hell on earth. But I remember I went to this tow yard. I saw this car, and the entire front end was pressed up into the dashboard of the car, so much so that the driving wheel, was pushed up against the front seat. So basically, if you were sitting in the front seat and you got in this accident, you are dead. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to call this customer and they're going to be dead. I'm going to ask, is so and so there? And I'm going to hear that they're dead. There's no way anybody lived through this. Because it, like, just how you're sitting in the car and you reach out your arms, you grip the steering wheel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine the steering wheel being pushed all the way up to the seat. That's how far crushed the front end was. So I calling the customer, and I'm just bracing for either they're dead or they're like comatose. And I get a call, and I'm like, "Is this so and so?" Yeah, it's me. And I'm like, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I got like a couple bruises." And I stop, and I'm just like, I, I didn't. I couldn't find the words. I was like, "How are you alive?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Your steering wheel is pushed all the way up to the front of the car." And I guess what had happened is, it was the car was parked when it got hit. Nobody was in the car, and I was like, "Okay, so that makes sense."
How did
She
they get some bruises?
um, that's a good point. She lied, but I guess a drunk driver had hit the car while it was parked, and I don't know what happened to the drunk driver, but if that's what the front of her car looked like, I don't know what the other car looked like. But I just remember me calling and being like, "How are you alive?" There's been other ones too where like it looks like minor damage, and I call the customer and they're legitimately in the hospital, and I'm like, "How are you in the hospital from something like this?" And I know they're in the hospital because I can hear like doctors in the background and like the beeping of machines, and I'm like, "Huh, all right." But it looks like a minor bumper damage, but it's just the way the human body works, I guess.
It's
Um,
weird.
but yeah, wild times working. I worked for Geico. I worked for State Farm. I worked for farmers. I really been around the block. And then, of course, I worked for a body shop for a while, which was wild being on the other side because for several years I would argue with body shops over labor times, part replacements, and et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm on the flip side arguing for more labor and more part replacements with the insurance. So it's funny that I worked for both teams
Well,
uh, at the time, but the body shop job sucked. I really hated that job. Because the job, so when you work in insurance, you just have a set hourly rate or salary if you're a manager, and you work 7 to 8 hour days, and if you work any more than that, you get overtime. With the body shop job, it's commission. So that's why the body shop people push for as much labor as possible, because that's how they make their commission. And I remember I was only at that job for 3 months, and I would bust my ass. I would work 10, 11-hour days just trying to push as much cars through as possible and get as much labor as possible. And I remember I got the second month I got my commission check after just busting my ass hard. And it was like $100 after working like an 80-hour week or something. So it was like 75-hour week. And I just looked at the check and it was like, "Here's your commission, $100." And I said, "I'm out of here."
yeah, no, that's such God, that's scum. Having commission jobs and then requiring you to put so much extra time to get your commission, and having commission that small, that's unbelievable.
It was a terrible job. I really, oh man. Whew. And then of course you'd get into a pissing match with the insurance company because they would tell the customer one thing, right? So if you had an adjuster, it's like, "Okay, well, you're going to take it to the shop and you got to be careful if they say this, they're trying to rip you off." And then me being at the shop saying those things, they're like, "Oh, you're trying to rip me off. Geico was right." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go. Here we go." And
That's when you hit him with the, okay, no wait, hey, I worked for Geico before, all right? Now I'm doing this. All right, let me tell you how it works.
yeah,
Give yourself some leverage.
I did that a couple times. I'm like, "Look, I've worked in the insurance field. This is why they say that, et cetera, et cetera." But wild times for sure. Maybe in another podcast, I'll go over some other episodes. But unfortunately, audience, it's time for us to wrap it up.
Time for the
Yeah.
duck roundup.
Now, it's been so long. I guess I don't even know what the last like duck was that we counted before we started this one.
I guess we'll do a quick run through here.
All right, yeah, you take us away.
All right, so I'm gonna start with myself. I got the ship in a bottle duck. My ship is sitting on the step nearby, and I'm cracked open. All right, moving forward.
Oh, that's what that was. The little mini ship is rolling around in the pool somewhere.
Yeah, because there's a second bottle duck, and that one got broken too. Next up, what am I looking at? I'm just looking at red. All right, moving on. We got the weird cactus pattern. We've got duck you.
Duck you.
Reindeer duck. Kintsugi duck. We've got the magnetism duck, positive. We got rocket duck, who's just chilling in the grass. Is there two? Yeah, no. This is a Day of the Dead duck. Sub duck. Panda duck. What do we got? Robo duck. What is this? Pride duck. Shattered duck. Geo duck. Pop art electricity duck. I don't know.
What's a glam rock duck?
Oh, glam duck. Yeah, that's a good one. A glam rock duck. We got skeleton duck. We've got kiss duck. We've got this tile pattern that we've failed to agree on what it truly is.
I always assume it's a graph, but I'll go with tile.
Yeah, similar shapes. That works. What is leopard duck? Cheetah? Something like that. Unicorn duck. Steampunk duck. We've got the lizard duck. Oh, no, the dragon duck. We've got Daisy duck. Or I guess... Yeah, that's good enough. We've got Robo duck. Robocop duck. Bee duck.
Scrooge McDuck.
Scrooge McDuck duck. Stone duck. Broken ship of the bottle duck again. David duck. Propeller hat. Russian nesting duck. Fire duck. Other Russian nesting duck. Arizona tea duck. The steamboat ducky. Molten duck. Alien duck. White
What
duck?
on earth is this?
Oh, this
Glow
is
in the
the
duck.
Yeah, glow in the dark duck. Glow in the dark winged
That's
duck.
cool.
Fancy duck. We got watermelon duck, 8-ball duck, gym head duck. What the?
A bull duck.
Oh, in the flamingo. Look at that. We've got cheese duck, sad duck, postage duck, cutout duck, strawberry duck, business duck or secret duck, agent service duck, optical illusion duck, disco duck. We've got birthday duck. We've got Christmas sweater duck, nutcracker duck, duck cracker, dirt duck, sumo or wrestling duck. Is this the chameleon?
Yeah, it's a chameleon because it's got slightly different pattern than the sweater duck.
Yeah, chameleon duck. We've got plaid duck. We've got tiger duck. Mallard duck. Donut duck. Cat duck. The matriarch of the Russian nesting ducks. Clown duck. Shiny metal duck.
Purple chrome duck.
Purple chrome duck. Other rock duck. Cross duck puzzle. Tesla coil duck. Or Tesla sphere. Bandage duck. Star duck. Polka duck. Plant duck. Night duck. Negative magnetism duck. Marble duck. Nickelodeon duck. Elf duck. We got shark duck. Lava duck.
This
Polygon
is
duck.
a graph. A polygraph. Poly duck. Yeah.
We've got the king of spades duck. We've got well, it's on fire now.
Oh,
Children's
God.
drawing duck. We've got the king of hearts duck. farmer duck, overall duck, bubblegum duck. I don't know. We've got the ornament duck, pizza on green duck, margarita. I don't know.
Oh man.
Ginger duck, wood duck, carved duck. Is it? This isn't the disco duck, is it?
It is the one with the lights bouncing around. It is the disco duck.
Oh, I can't see the lights, but I can hear it. We've got kawaii duck, math duck, egghead duck, black duck, ghost duck, green duck,
Mint duck.
camo duck, Santa duck, me.
And we're back.
Oh man.
Hey.
98.
Well, everyone, I think next episode we'll probably wrap up the ducks and maybe we'll start again. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. Hopefully they've added a new map and then we can start that up. But yeah, next episode will probably be the last episode officially of the season of the podcast. And we'll start up again.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
And hit like if you like this series. If you want to see more of it, let us know in the comments below. And subscribe if you just want to be notified for releases on my content in general.
Goodbye.
And we'll see you in the next one.